In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I invite you to close your eyes and see if you can conjure up your most favorite smell. A smell that fills you with nostalgia or comfort, or one that reminds you of someone you love. Without opening your eyes, raise your hand if you imagine the smell of baking bread. Keep your hands raised and open your eyes. You can put your hands down. Now that I mentioned the smell of baking bread, how many of you want to change what you were thinking about? How many of you hold close a memory of someone, maybe a grandparent or a parent, or even yourself, baking bread? Oh, many of you. There's a time in my life when I baked bread from scratch. Other times when I would buy frozen bread dough, let it rise, and then bake it. Bread has such a distinct smell, and that smell fills a home like few other odors. And it doesn't just start when the dough is in the oven. When you make bread dough, even proofing the yeast has a certain smell. If you come from a household where sourdough starter sat on your counter, you know that there is a sickeningly sweet and sour smell that will become some of the tastiest of breads. Blending the ingredients for a yeast bread, creating the right texture of the dough, letting it rise at the best temperature, pounding the dough down, kneading it, forming the loaves, and then letting it rise again is both an art and something that takes finesse and patience. Walking into a kitchen where bread is being prepared is a flowery space of anticipation. Smelling bread as it bakes is one of those odors that can bring comfort and a sense of home to many. I love bread. I love almost any kind of bread. I love that bread of some sort is a part of most cultures, a food that may not look the same everywhere, a food that most people can rely upon to provide a foundation for the other parts of a meal. Our friend Kasia also loves bread. When she came to the United States from Poland, she introduced us to a variety of breads. At any meal in their home, you will find some type of crusty bread to put your meat, cheese, and tomatoes on. It would be strange to go into their house and not find bread. For Kasia, bread is an integral part of hospitality. Bread helps her fill the stomachs of those who gather around their table for food, fellowship, and friendship. In so many ways, bread represents love and comfort and safety. Bread equals home. I don't think that that's just a Polish thing, because bread is most often inexpensive, filling, and abundant. Bread is often the center of the meal. Need to stretch the meal because someone unexpected is at the table? Grab more bread. Want to quiet a rumbling tummy? Make a piece of toast. Want something to hold your meat and cheese? Don't have a plate? Find a tortilla or flatbread or bun or naan or pita or wheat, white, rye, or potato bread. Maybe that's what Jesus is talking about when he says that he is the bread of life. We can count on Jesus to supply our needs, like we can use bread to fulfill our hunger. Like bread, Jesus is our foundation. When the Israelites were hungry, they complained to Moses, who went to God to share their need. And God supplied their need with quail at night and manna in the morning. When the 5,000 were hungry on that mountaintop we heard about last week, Jesus was able to take 2 fish and 5 loaves of barley bread and turn it into a feast. When the homeless are hungry in Indianapolis, our own Alban asks God to provide food, and through the generosity of many people, she brings abundant supplies of food to City Market. When we trust that God will supply our need, we will be fed. It is interesting, however, to think about the hunger of the Israelites and the 5,000 and the homeless when we think about how hunger is not always about quail or fish or donated food or bread. Hunger is a longing. Hunger is an unmet need. Hunger is a desire to be in relationship, to be loved. Hunger can only be met when we recognize what it is we are hungry for. As a people, the Israelites, the 5,000, the homeless, we are often unaware of what will satisfy our hunger. But we understand the metaphor of bread as a way to fulfill our hunger. God sent manna to the Israelites to help them understand what they were hungry for, that what they were hungry for was more than meat and bread. They were hungry for God. When over time humanity remained hungry, God sent Jesus. Jesus says, "I am the bread of life." For those of us who follow him, Jesus is the way to be in relationship with God. Jesus is the way to end that hunger in ourselves. The gospel writer John likes to use the word abide to help us understand what it means to be in relationship with God, to be open to God's presence in our lives, to recognize the gifts we have each been given to share with one another, to live in ways that promote our commitment to God. That's abiding in God. When we are open to the mystery of faith, open to what it is God needs us to see in the world, to do in the world, to be in the world, trusting that what we have, that we have what we need to be the hands and the feet of Jesus in the world. We abide in God. Learning and knowing how to pray and worship and sing praises, we abide in God. Jesus is the bread of life. And while we can close our eyes and let ourselves be brought back into the warm kitchen where bread is baking, impatiently awaiting that first warm slice smothered with butter and jam, Jesus is not that kind of bread. Jesus is the constant companion of life, the foundation, the sustenance, the common, the familiar, the abundant and plentiful presence of God. He is the manna in the grass. He is the gift of God made available to all who trust and believe in him. God will not leave us hungry because God loves us enough to give us Jesus. When you think about the smell of fresh baked bread, remember that this simple food is lovingly made by hands who love and cherish and welcome you to abide in the safety and comfort of God's love. Let us pray. Creator of all, we pray that when we are hungry, we will remember the gift of your Son, the bread of life, Jesus, who came to this world to teach us that when we abide in him, we abide in you. Amen.